morning, afternoon, everyone. Uh, Again, please do remember that we are recording our meetings. If you don't feel comfortable, please just turn off your cameras and re remove your name, and all will be good. Okay? So I'm going to share my screen with you. We are continuing our studies on the book Alert by the spirit Joanna de Angelis, psychographed by the medium Divaldo Franco. And today we are on our 13th week. We are going to talk about inner refinement. Okay, I'm going to read to you. Just a second, let me put everything. I like to see your faces, so sometimes I try to see as many faces as I can. Yeah. And now it's not allowing me to see that many. Okay, so let's start reading them. As always, we have the English and the Portuguese version for those who prefer to read in Portuguese. Inner refinement. It is very fair and even recommended that we should resort to fraternal cooperation with our neighbor when suffering and difficulties visit our inner self. The disinterested assistance that we receive is the invaluable blessing that life reconstituted in human relations. In the world, all things are exchanges, interchanges that become consubstantiated in force and resistance to collimate the objectives to which they are destined. Nevertheless, there are tasks that are up to each individual to achieve, and they are integrated in the evolutionary process that we are. Also, it is not licit to transfer personal obligations and responsibilities that are part of the enlightenment plan that we should achieve, even if under heavy loads of affliction and renunciation. Among the challenges that we are offered by life, what concerns personal improvement gains priority. As apprentices of life, we face the necessary lessons that provide us with the knowledge and liberation from the embarrassment of ignorance, originator of a thousand evils, and of selfishness, which is a cancer of highly destructive power. Okay, so we're ready to stop now and to start with our comments. Okay. Um, so Joanna de Angelis is start talking about here in relation to fraternal relationships, fraternal assistance, fraternal cooperation, establishing that suffering, difficulties is part of our process of life, and that not necessarily we need to go through that alone, that we may ask for the cooperation of friends, of people that somehow can help us go through, face, cope with whatever challenge we have before us. But at the same time that she says that, she also says, your problems are your problems. You cannot just say, Father, move away this chalice from me, right? We can have and should count with the support of friends, of a community, of the spirits. But at the end of the day, we cannot transfer whatever is happening to us to other people. Oftentimes we see parents, when seeing their children going through difficult times, saying, I wish I could bring my child suffering to myself, right? This is something that we, because of love, out of concern, we would like to do. And at other times we would gladly give others our troubles and rid ourselves from them. And then Joanna de Angelis said, this is not a trade you can make, because there is a reason why we go through all that. And whatever, like she says here, amongst the challenges that we are offered by life, everything that means personal improvement should be motive for us to apply ourselves even more. So here, when she's talking about inner refinement, our inner betterment, inner improvement, she's telling us that there is no way from us to escape from that. Okay, we don't need to go through that alone, but there is no possibility to transfer that. And since we have to go through those things, the best thing for us to do is to learn from the experiences, because those are lessons extremely important for us to rid ourselves of so many imperfections, or like she says here, that was the originator of 1,000 evils that have been promoting so much unhappiness and difficulties in our lives. Questions, comments? We have a very short, very difficult, but very short text today. So it's good if you could participate, mull over, voice your thoughts.
Yes, I think that this text really talks about personal responsibility. And what came to my mind is that early in life, we should be taught to be responsible for our actions and the effects of our actions, and therefore be taught to act in an appropriate manner. And that's, by the time we learn that, at least in the age that I grew up, many people had gone astray long before that because their parents coddled them. And that's not good.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
I always believe then when you have some problems, then we learn with things, but the most important is I always believe the answer is come together. It's only by yourself to look around and try to find what's the way is better to solve that problems. Mm-hmm. And because I always believe God give us the protection and the solution and the straight enough to come through and rise these challenges the lives give to us.
Orlando made a very good question as well here. Are the doctors or the health centers interfering with our suffering and pains? Well, Orlando, I tend to believe that because of the will of God and because of our needs and our possibilities, there are always going to be presented to us things and possibilities to subdue, to reduce the pains we have to go through in life. be their physical pains, because you see, sometimes we have any impediment to go through a medical treatment, okay? Because we do understand that there are people that are that have more difficulties to have access to that. But let's talk even about those that have access and have a possibility to go through any kind of medical treatment. But they refuse. Or if they go, the doctors tell them, you know, you have to do this and that to take better care of your health, and, you know, not to have to go through so much struggles like you are having now. And what we do, many times, although we have things that can reduce our pain, and it's there for us to take advantage of it, and we don't do anything about it. The same thing happens in terms of emotional and spiritual things, like even ourselves. I mean, there are so many things that we know already and that we could be applying ourselves a bit better, not to get ourselves so much into trouble. But yes, it is still difficult for us to go through all this process as we have here of inner refinement. So the doctors are doing their work, and even there is a passage on the I don't remember by heart which one it is, probably is in Blessed Are the Afflicted, but the chapter 5, but I'm not so sure, where the one of the last items where it is asked there if we would not be interfering with people's needs, which is kind of what you asked here, if we go there and try to help them to reduce their pains, whatever pains we are talking about here, emotional, spiritual, physical one. And the spirits reply the following. They say, it is our duty to do so. But if it is not on the best interest of the person, even when we do our utmost to help, and the person has everything at their disposal to be able to use it, if it is not good for them, it's not going to work. So in this case, the doctors, the health centers, they are trying to alleviate our pains. And in some cases, they succeed. In some cases, they don't. So they have to keep on trying. And this is a blessing from God to us. So it happens the same when we are talking in any other field. Our duty, and even God is putting so many resources for us to utilize them. And one of them is exactly what Joanna de Angelis is proposing here, for us to think about our actions, to use each and every happening of our lives as a step to move us up on the ladder of evolvement. More questions and comments? No? So let's go on then. Let me do something here to be easier for you to read. No one will accompany you in this effort of renovation and inner refinement. Not because people do not want you to do that, okay? It's because it belongs to us. Remember that example that we say about the horse. You take the horse to a stream to drink water. You put the horse there, the water is there, but if the horse doesn't want to drink, it's not going to drink. So it's not that we cannot count with assistance, because we do all the time. They basically put us right next to the water, but we are not drinking. This effort has to be our own. So few will notice the fight that deadlocks you in the obscure field of this important battle. This is another thing. Sometimes we misjudge, or quite often actually, we misjudge people so much. We don't see their personal efforts to improve themselves. All we see is failure. All we do is judging, not knowing the struggles, the daily struggles, the second struggles they have to go through to dominate themselves. Let's talk about, for instance, someone that is trying to overcome any kind of addiction. It can be sugar, it can be drinking, it can be gossiping, whatever you think about it. We don't know the hell this person has to go through day after day to be able to keep that going in the right direction. For those who already had to deal with one addiction or another, or even if we were talking about simple things that are not related and necessary to addiction, but to getting into a diet. Okay, we know how hard it is. Or if you have any physical problem, and for a certain time the doctor recommends you not to consume any kind of, let's say red meat or sugar or oil, whatever, and or you develop, you become a lactose intolerant, and then you have to cut, milk and other things from your life. I'm giving very simple examples so that we can relate. So we don't know how hard it is for for each and every one of us to maintain a discipline, to maintain the will. And those are, and only for that, and knowing how hard it is, because I'm sure each one of us already went through several of those things in life and understand what we are talking about. Each and every person should deserve our respect. So, but then Joanna de Angelis says, some will create difficulties for your commitment, perhaps conceding resources and the means to escape or fall. You know that person that says, oh, you don't need a diet. Come with me. Let's go to that wonderful Italian restaurant to have a good pasta, right? And I mean, it can be very hard for those who are trying to control their appetite or something. It will not be few the times that you will try and repeat this effort by fearing failure or believing you cannot achieve the goal. This is one thing that we constantly talk about on our study groups. Please do not give up. Even when you think that, no, I cannot do it. Okay, take a little break. Breathe in, breathe out. Distract yourself for a bit and go again, because it is part of the process. It is not second nature in us. Many of the habits we want to achieve, of the virtues we want to incorporate in ourselves, they are not there yet. And they will easily slip away because it is still not us. It is still something that I want to become. With reason, knowing why I want to become. And Joanna de Angelis goes and say, proceed, however, working on your character and sentiments. Meaning, control your emotions, calm down, be tolerant with yourselves, but try to develop resilience and discipline and persist in those ways, because at the end of the day, this is the way that are going to bring you everything that you want. That is peace of mind and happiness. Do not allow yourselves to be disturbed by the vainglories, nor to be numbed by the vapors of violence that brings unhappiness to the masses. So here she's telling us there will be moments where people are going to be applauding either your efforts or something else. There will be moments that we will be completely enveloped by the discouragement world, and we can easily give up. It's exactly what we're going through now, right? So many people are just saying bad things about everything that is happening, completely discouraged. We are not saying that, again, we always say that this pandemic is bringing different experiences. For some, they are much more difficult than for others. Everyone is going through that. But everyone is enveloped by a wave of pessimism, of discouragement. And when we think like this, how are we going to find the strength to go on? Is there an English expression that we say, I will kick the bucket? Or something like that? That means I couldn't care less at this moment to keep on working on my improvement. Does anyone know?
Kick the bucket means to die.
Yeah, it means to die, right? Yeah, that's what I thought about it, because in Portuguese we say chutar o pau da barraca. What would be like, I couldn't care less. Is there anything that could be an expression?
I couldn't care less.
That's an easy one. It has to be another one. But anyway, you got the picture, right? So
Yep.
It comes to a point that you are so enveloped by all this discouragement that you will say, no more. I tried. And we cannot allow that to happen. Life is like this. There are ups and downs, and many times we mostly see the downs or leave the downs, and if we don't try to go up, then we will stay there. So she would say, be appeased and do not retaliate evil. Do not fight evil with evil. Do not deny yourself kindness, beneficence, hope, and humility. Oh my God, that's so wonderful, right? So hard to do. Our first impulse is someone treat us badly. I'm not going to take this home. I'm going to retaliate or immediately. And not only she's saying, do not do that. She's saying, be kind, good, offer hope and humbleness. That means working even more than, walking even more than just the extra mile. The extra mile to us would already be not saying anything. In cultivating those virtues, they will become your resistance. And when the testimonies seem like the densest and the most frightening night, they will shine in your shadowed heaven, pointing you in the right direction. So here she's talking about the virtues, because, you know, it's part of life. There will be coming moments where we will be going through the densest and the most frightening night. But if we have moral structure through the virtues we are trying to achieve, through self-control, then they are not going to affect us the same. Let's see here. Because we are incarnate in a physical body, we suffer. Not necessarily, Orlando. Most of the time, I think it's more like the other way around. We are suffering as spirits, with a lot of anguish, lots of regrets and guilt. And we say, I need to change this my spirit, mental outlook. How can we do that? They say, well, a very good way for you to do that is to reincarnate. Not only you will temporarily be oblivious, forget everything that has been the motive of your anguish, of your suffering, but you will have a chance to make amends and eliminate completely everything that is making you suffer. And then we say, yes, sure. If there is something, I mean, if I can forget about it just for a moment, and if there is a way that I cannot feel bad about those things anymore, I take it. Well, the catch is when you are there, you know, the process of you reading yourself from this, so to say, illness, to spurge that from your spirit is not such an easy one, but it's going to happen. So I would say that if we think from this perspective, it would be more the other way around. Any comments? So Philip, everything is related, in terms of death, is related to bucket. I have my bucket list and then I kick the bucket. Everything is bucket. Let me see your question. How much of what you have done in the past is restored to you when you go to the spiritual world? That depends. We read and we learn in many of the Spiritist books that we not necessarily, when returning to the spiritual world, we will be in possession of our complete memory. We do not even have that here in this life, right? We barely remember our first days of lives, our first few years, and sometimes the more we age, even the previous day, right? But so what they say is that we will be able to access memories that will somehow help us in the process of growing. Some memories may be too difficult for us to access. unless we reach a more evolved stage of we reach a more evolved stage, because you know, many things that could be detrimental to us, that would leave us in a state of guilt and remorse, which is completely damaging to our progress. We are, I mean, from things we have done in the past, we will not have access to that. But when we grow enough, you know, like let's take the example of Emmanuel. Emmanuel had to tell us the story, or I mean, he told us the story that he had a personal meeting with Jesus, that he found nothing wrong with Jesus, that he realized that he was before a noble spirit, and Jesus asked him to follow him. And if he didn't, he said, it's going to take you so many centuries for you to get to this point again. It took almost 5 centuries for Emmanuel to be in the point where he were in that conversation with Jesus. And he had to tell, and he told us that. And I'm sure that when he had the opportunity of accessing this memory, okay, maybe if he said, what a pity, but okay, I'm here today, right? But if when we are not, and we think about it, it's not going to bring us any good. That's why we have very limited access for a time of what we have done in the past. Yes, we always have to have a lot of compassion and mercy and justice, Orlando. That's you know, that's part of the list of virtues that we need to acquire, right? Because it's not so easy for us to exercise them, and much less for them to be a permanent constant, a permanent thing in our lives. This is what we are trying to do. We are still not capable of loving as we should, but at least we are already capable of having compassion, of having mercy, of understanding justice. That's absolutely true. So let's look at the last small paragraph. In knowing the destination that awaits us in the future, Jesus came to summon us by example and the word to inner refinement and victory over any expression of evil through the righteous action of God. That's why, you know, Jesus came to us to tell us through his, not only his words, but mostly through his example, the need for us to grow, and that sooner or later we will be able to get what we need in terms of personal refinement. But it's only through effort, and it's not an easy process like we've been telling here. Next week we have a fraternal commitment, but we still have time here to talk about it. I'll stop sharing now, okay? So we can.
I have probably not a well-formed question, but when Jesus told him that it would take him 5 centuries, did he add any explanation to that? So he'd have an idea.
Yeah, Jesus didn't say it's going to take 5 centuries. we have this dialogue in the book 2,000 years ago. Jesus said, it's going to take centuries for you to, uh, and in fact, it did. Right in this same incarnation, he died with a lot of regret.
Mm.
And then he had another 2-3 incarnations that are described in the books 50 years later, and then renunciation, and then Hail Christ. That is all the process that it took. And then, from almost like in the 4th, 5 centuries, he was really rich of also all the, because sometimes it's not, this is what we have to understand. It's not that we just put a halt in our progress.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is one of the things, but we also, like when they say, it's not only the bad that you didn't do, that you did, that is a problem. It's the good that you miss it doing. So it's the same thing here. It's not just that I just stop it, but I missed a lot of opportunity to grow, to learn more, to do good things.
That's a different part.
Yeah, like in his case, he had suspicion that his wife was having an affair, which was not true. And she stopped talking to her for 25 years. And he did not give her a divorce. She lived in his house almost like a slave, isolated, not having basically any right. Only have to, save face when he had, the to show the wife or something like that. Being accused with no right to defend herself, and living the situation for 25 years. And when he finally realized that I'm talking to you, telling you the book, he was wrong. He rushed for her. She was being sacrificed as a Christian in the Roman circus.
Yeah.
So he didn't have the chance to do that. So can you imagine, the regret, all the good things he could have done, So that's the point. It's not just a matter of us saying, okay, I'm not going to do that this year. I'm going to do that next year. How much are you missing? And that's why it took longer, because Jesus said, if you start now, you're going to spare you centuries of, being at this exact point that you are, where you finally say, I'm ready, and I already made amends for everything that during these 4 centuries I didn't do as right as I could.
Well, maybe next time.
Maybe next time. Well, he did. Now it's up to us. We are doing that as well. I mean, it's the same conundrum.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Which is worse at this moment, to make the effort for something that we know that is going to result in much happiness for us, much peace of mind at least, or just delaying this as well? And
Well, the problem is that we don't recognize the opportunities to do that. I know I told this story once before. I was on the Manhattan Bridge driving, and I guess I became numb, and I hit the car in front of me. Not hard, but just enough to wake the person up in front. And he jumped out of the car, angry as heck, and came up to me and said, "What did you do, fall asleep?" And I said, "Yes." He was petrified. He didn't know what to do then. But it's the point of not reacting, but just being honest with yourself. And that's what we have a trouble with, because we're always protecting ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And this is one thing that we have to pay attention to, you know. It is good already that we are aware of that. Because we cannot change, we cannot improve something that we don't even see.
Yeah.
It causes us a discomfort. Of course, I don't like to look at myself and say, oh my God, I failed again, yet again, in something that in theory I know so much. I know by heart, you know? I don't like it, but at least now, I mean, before I was completely blind. Now I'm only a little impaired to achieve what I want to achieve. But, you know, the more I exercise, the more my impairment is going to move away and allow me to do the things I have to do, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think the lesson is about accountability, right? We have to be accountable for ourselves. And I think it's so easy to pass it along, but, you know, at work, I worked with human resources and I'm always talking about accountability with people. And every time you do, the first thing is, but he or but she. And I'm like, there is no but, you know, where do you draw the line? But it's so much easier to use the but and then move on, you know, but he did that, she did that. And I just reacted, but it doesn't matter. It's like Philip said, if you reacted honestly and true to yourself, then it is what it is, right? So you have to be accountable.
There is a wonderful lesson from Emmanuel in the book Our Daily Bread that is the but, that is called the but. Basically, he says, if you have to put a but in a phrase,
you're already wrong. You're already wrong.
I think, yes. I think there is another one that he says that no, the but. That is as brilliant in the same book. Take a look at there because it's so fantastic. This message.
You know, in business, people say if you use a but, everything that you said before is just gone.
Just gone. Yeah, and he tells that us with such a, you know, such wisdom, and it's impossible for us not to start thinking about and think, oh my God, that's so true. That's so true. We always and we have the same the spirits book, the famous question 919. What do I need to, you know, to reach to have the understand? Wise from ancient times already told you, know thyself, and then Saint Augustine comes and tell, you know, about accountability. Exactly, you know, at night, review everything that you said. And then there is in the same group of questions, there is a comment from Kardec that he says, when you are doing that, your answers must always be yes or no. There is no room for but and etc. You know, if you start saying, oh, I was good until 10 o'clock, but then my sister called me. No, that's not the question, the answer we want, right? Yeah, that's really hard, but you know, today we are at least capable of talking about it, laughing about it, being charitable with ourselves, knowing that it's a process. And it's just a matter of keep on going, which is what the lesson here, Joanna de Angelis is telling us. Do not let you become involved by the negativity, even the praise, extra praise sometimes that maybe you think that what you have achieved is enough. Sometimes there is this problem, you know. People already say, oh my God, you are so good doing that. Okay, I'm very good doing that, but couldn't I be better? Maybe not only in this field, but in other things. So that means that this is enough. I don't need to do anything else. No, right? So sometimes even excessive praise can be detrimental in this sense. So that's why she's saying, you know, keep on going, don't let yourself be discouraged by whatever is going in the around you, and persevere. And at the end of the day, when the struggles of life come, if you have this moral structure, it's going to be so much easier to go through this period without being that much affected. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So should we end our meeting, go to the final prayer then? Okay, Barbara, please.